This podcast is owned and operated by the RCR Association, a private third party to the Department of National Defense. The content of this podcast is the responsibility of the RCR Association and does not necessarily reflect the views or policies of the Government of Canada. The official emblems of the regiment are used with the permission of Regimental Headquarters, the RCR.
Get my frag vest and my helmet, look back in the gym, and there's Corporal Phillips, who's a reservist. And he was lying on his back, no t-shirt on, just his shorts, his feet doing bent, his knees are bent. But he's lying on his back, and he has a perfect bloodline that goes right to here, just ends right here, perfectly red. He looked gray, but this is all at a moment's glance. And I was just I remember thinking dude, you suck at taking cover. That was my first thought. I was why would you lie down in the open? This is the worst spot. And then obviously within a millisecond, I was so why are you bleeding? Oh, so can you get up? He's no. I'm all right, man, we're gonna we'll get you out of here. I'm medic. I remember thinking it was just like the movies. I was I can't believe I gave a movie medic. And then immediately wet checked him because my plan was to pick him up and just run him, right? So I was I wanted to make sure he didn't have something spinal real quick. So wet check is nothing. And I'm we're under fire, obviously. And I put my hand behind, and I felt something that didn't feel normal. And I lifted him just a bit. He obviously grimaced and winced, but and I was had blood on my fingers and realized he had a pretty savage hole in his back. So then I was medic, went to pick him up. And as soon as I went to pick him up, I didn't even get him off the ground. The medic came sliding in, plugging like a hero. And it started, I'm check his back. I jumped up onto my gun. When I got onto my gun, there was a bad guy, Taliban, reloading an RPG. In relatively the open, the way the Great Rose ran from this fighting position, were bowling alleys instead of trenches. And this dude, what? So I get the guy and slide over 2 or 3 feet, have sandbags, crest it. It was better than our range. I couldn't have been more in a stable firing easel ready to do it. I came up and I remember lining up everything and seeing this person who was not aware and let her buck and got him. But as soon as I fired, my position came under attack. So then I grabbed my gun. I knew the direction this got shot at from. So I kind of slid down the wall a little bit more, maybe 10, 15 feet. Came back up. And when I came up, Buddy was not even shooting in my direction anymore. We're shooting another, the other tower. And I was just able to exactly again, got everything laid on him, shot at him. By then, people had come up on the walls because they were hey, we're going to firefight instead. And then I was right where that bar is. We hit it with a whole bunch of M203s. There was nothing left. Nothing to go see, at least, that's for sure. So tagged those 2 guys, but the rest of our platoon were on the other wall, and they saturated and killed a whole bunch of guys. The bad guys that showed up, they were using this compound called Richman's compound, and bad guys showed up in a bongo truck, so we had laid with. Now we had taken at that moment we had three injuries, 3 proper injuries. Phillips had taken shrapnel in the shoulder blade in the back. That's why he was bleeding, spitting up blood because he was his lungs had compromised, or one of them at least. And then Master Corporal Mailman had taken, we got hit by an 82 recoilless rifle, which pierced through the thin part of the HESCO, not the big ones, but the thinner one. Obviously, that's an anti-tank weapon, and that's what labs were afraid of too, which respect. And we got hit by an RPG into the tower, so that was the one that hit Phillips. And my number 2, the guy that carries my ammo and is my fire team partner, he took shrapnel in the back of the head and in the traps as well. So those guys got tagged. We had to call a medevac in, so we were going to send Mailman because it was his head. It was pretty shrapnel up, but he was good spirits running around
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host, Manny Singh from 3RCR. Our guest today is a gentleman that I had the pleasure of working with overseas. As a superior of mine, after the first 2 months of working at CQ2IC, moved over to Training Team 2 under the command team of Captain Bax McClatchy and Warrant Officer Brian Hurley, who we have today from 3RCR DFS Platoon, Direct SAR Support Platoon.
Mm-hmm.
All right, please, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. Thank you for taking the time to be out here. Right on. So, Brian, when does your story of military service begin? 2004?
Yeah, so we could probably go back. This will be a big biography here, but
yeah,
I was born into a military family. My father was military.
What did he do?
He was 8th Canadian Hussars, so 8th CH. It's an armored recce unit. Was a jumper, hurt himself, remustered, and what became intelligence. So I was born here in Pet in 85. Then like a year, I think it was, and then we moved to British Columbia so we could carry out that. And that's where my brother was born. Lived there for 4 years. Moved back to Petawawa. And those are like my first memories of Pet now, like in this story. And then we moved from there to Ottawa, from Ottawa to Carleton Place to St. Hubert. That's where my dad deployed. So then me and my brother and my mom lived there. Then we moved to Halifax, Dartmouth area, and lived there for 4 years while my dad did military stuff with the Navy. And then he was subsequently released for PTSD and we moved all of us to London, Ontario to start grade 8 basically for me.
Oh, wow.
So banged up grade 8, 9, 10, and 11 while my dad saw like a professional PTSD doctor there and whatever. Then my dad got a job under some new program. They rehired him to be something to do with like rebinding annexes and books, like come back as a civilian. But I digress. Like we moved to Barrie, lived there till like I did grade 12 and like a victory lap. Mostly just to play football, but also had to like get the last grades. And then I moved to Ottawa right before I joined the Army, then joined the Army. So, like, if the military's always been part of my life, except for that, like, weird high school time, which were, like, out in, like, civilian life, and was obviously, like, quite a culture shock from what you think is, like, normal. Then you go into, like, a normal life where it's, like, I don't know, like it's so ethnically diverse and like normal cities are just like everybody. So to leave like the military to go there was just like, whoa, cool, awesome. Got to eat a lot of tasty food.
Well, that's pretty neat. Like, so being an Army brat, I mean, it probably has its challenges. I'm sure you had your ups and downs with relocating all the time. I can only imagine.
Yeah, not really. Maybe later in life you're like more boisterous or you have your issues. And I guess you can go both directions. You probably like use it as like a reason why you're angry and really go that direction, or you can really learn how to like make friends quickly. And it's more I struggle more with like keeping friends for a long time than I do with making new friends. Just because I'm just like, do we just keep hanging out? Like, what happens next? So because of Facebook and like that reality where you can keep tabs with everybody, I'm just like, whoa, weird. I'm sure everybody's navigating that though too.
So were you always thinking about the military because your dad was in the military?
Yeah. He planted the seed when he would say things like, you'll be a great sergeant someday. You'll be a great jump master. And I was just like, yeah, okay, like sure. I wanted to be a jump master. Once I just
like your dad's an NCO.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
His whole time. But he would just like plant these little things that then I was just like, well, I think I can get to that. And then I was like, I always told myself, I'm like, I want to go above whatever he did. I wanted to go like one above. So like he was a jumper. I want to be a jump master. So I would have known, I would have dispatched him, had our times be equal. And that could have been like, what's up? But then it was just like, okay, cool. You made to master corporal. So I'm like, I got to make the sergeant. Then he's like, you'd be very warm. I'm like, stop. I want to get in the Army. Like, so far so good though. Yeah.
And you and your brother both served. Did you guys both enlist at the same time?
No.
How'd you guys?
So he's 2 years younger than I am. And shout out to All the Way. And so he's 2 years younger than I am. He then finished high school. Then he went on to do college. I joined up as soon as that first semester was completed. I moved to Ottawa, hung out there for a bit. The Army was like, you leave next week. So I went, which was cool. And then he did finish high school while I was like doing basic, and then went to college. I did battle school, all the jump courses and recce course and all that stuff. And then he joined up when he realized that like he was like a young white kid wanting to be going through police foundations with like no history or background. So there was just like, I come back in 5 years. So he's like, what am I going to do? I'm like, join the Army, man. We're doing the same thing, except it's more exciting. And so he was just like, all right, cool. Joined up and like excelled. It was good.
So like considering the circumstances of when you joined, so 2004, Afghanistan was already something that Canada would have been involved in at that time. Is that something that you were tracking? Was it on your radar?
No, not in the way I understand things now, that's for sure. But like that also makes sense being a kid. I I remember seeing like,
were you had an intention of like getting involved in Afghanistan?
no, I was like, once, it's interestingly enough that like when we went through, so sure, the regular Canadian military stuff was happening, but like before cell phones, so it wasn't like I was reading the news. You'd have to like search the news out. In a basic training, it was like, you only get to use a payphone to call out. Like I had a cell phone, but it was like, who am I going to call? I'm on duty and I'm going to call the guys in the bars. Like, are you having fun? Like, that sucked, right? So you're just like, I don't know what's going on in Canada. It didn't like hit like it eventually did. And then sure enough, I went through battle school, and during battle school, it was still very like Soviet war style fighting, where it was like purposely platoon attack, taking trenches and doing the stuff that is like, was not like what it ended up being like once we got to battalion. Because once we got to battalion, it was just like coin operated, rated to the counterinsurgency style fighting, which is like more like live your life over in a firefight. Like it's not as, it didn't, for me at least, like it didn't play out like it has, like it is now in Ukraine and Russia, where it's back to like opening up the old books, being like, oh, that's what they're doing. Like they're doing it. There's like drone footage proving that they're doing it. So this other stuff was like a lot more like what watching the Vietnam movies, like Afghanistan was a lot more like hard to train for something that you're like, maybe everyone in here could be a bad guy. You don't even know that. Like they're all dressed the same. So it was unique. It was fun. It was also like terrifying. All the things.
Because you came from like a military family, did you have a very specific goal in mind of what you wanted to accomplish? I know you said things like
the first kid on my street to kill a bad guy. Like no. A bit. No.
Because you already had some knowledge about the military. You had quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like my dad was pushing me, but I was like initially asked to be a combat engineer, and I got the grades high enough to scored high enough on aptitude to get it. That's my first choice. My second choice being infantry, and it was the only time my dad ever came forward and was just like said something, said like not do something. I didn't really.
When he just said it's a trees, like no.
No, he said that about engineers. He's like, I don't want you clearing minefields because of his experience in Bosnia, being super mined at the time. His experience is like, don't be the guy that's out there like saving the guys. Like I'd rather you be infantry if you had to make a choice. And I was like, that's the only time he's ever like said like something like negative, so to speak, to me. So about stuff like that. So he's usually too supportive with problems, right? Like, do it. I'm like, I need you to. Like,
the first time he's challenging you.
He just said he was just concerned about me like messing with mines, and I totally get it. Hats off to all the chimos out there, like combat engineers. We're bros, and I would have made an awesome one for sure, but I'm happy with my choices because now I don't have to like trip out that my dad's tripping out.
So,
I found other ways to do that.
So you get through battalion battle school. You get over to what? 3 RCR already?
Yeah, 3. All the whole battle school wanted to like go to the 3rd. There was like fear. Everyone was concerned about going to the 2nd just for the distance because most of us were Ontario kids, and a couple of pickly guys that ended up going out west. But all of us knew pretty much we were going to PET, but we thought we were going to go to 1 because our sister platoon kind of got like told that they were going to the 3rd. So it was like, but I was like, I wrote a memo. First time ever in my entire life, I wrote a memo being like, I want to be a jumper. I want to like go to para company. I want to do that progression. Like I'm asking to go to the 3rd. So I submitted my memo, and then sure enough, I think I got a couple of other guys that wanted to do it too. I wanted to just give myself the best chance to get jump corps, like, and be a paratrooper. So I put the memo in, whatever. We wait for a bit, and maybe like a week or two, and then he comes back, and the officer like kind of like, he doesn't throw it at me, but he like kind of passes it to me nonchalant. He was just like, it's denied. And I was just like, oh, I have never been like officially denied anything before. So I was like, oh man, that sucks. And then he's like, because your entire platoon is going to the 3rd. And we're like, oh shit. And then we're like, oh no. And I start running. We was battle school, obviously, so we were running all the time, but for sure.
Yeah, right on. So you get over to 3 RCR. Where'd you end up?
November Company, and then we did a big winter warfare exercise right to jump corps. So it was like 5 weeks of going out weekly for the whole week, just winter camping, and then playing Army obviously, and then we did a big final exercise in a place by Timmins, Earlton, and just like 14 days straight. It was heavy metal, and then at the end of it, I went on my jump course. Right off that, ran to jump course. Jump course ran to recce course, and then that was like summer leave that finally came.
Okay, right on.
It was like back to back to back to back to back. And then
So what was that like? Do you remember you finally got something that you were really, I don't know, you're really adamant on achieving going on the jump course? Do you still remember what it was like?
I am, and I will say this, like, I am very proud of my airborne heritage and everything that I've achieved within the airborne community. But I don't want to use the word more proud, but I am more proud of being an RCR. And the airborne comes with that. But like, or the airborne, what we know of, comes with that. But like, we never take our cap badge off. So to me, like being an RCR, getting my 8-pointed Death Star was like the more meaningful one. The jump course proved to myself that I could hang, pun intended. But like, seriously, right? So like, that's how I felt. I've always been proud of like, when I'm wearing a maroon beret, I'm proud of like being a 3 RCR maroon beret. Like when other units hear that, they're just like, oh, those guys are for real. As we all say about the Bandies, as we say about the Pickley, it's like all the third pair guys are like, you know, those guys are for real. So at least that's how I've always treated it, because we've always worked with like, we've always proven that. But proud of my unit first.
This is awesome.
Pro Pat.
Pro Pat. You're my first guest who's like, I guess has such an extensive airborne background. So just so everybody's listening, Brian has been a jumper serving in my company as an active duty paratrooper. He's also been serving as a jump master, which involves the responsibilities of dispatching jumpers out of different aerial platforms, and as well as being a parachute instructor. So actually qualifying candidates on their basic parachute and jump master course, right? So that's pretty much all of the credentials that one can ascertain typically as an airborne member in the battalion, other than the other kind of accessory courses like free fall.
Yeah. So the free fall world is a whole different thing, and that's super cool. And obviously those guys are highly skilled dudes. I've worked at the jump school. The hard way of doing it is just to do the round world.
So can you explain that more? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people listening who don't really understand the nuances of of what things are perceived from being within the jumping world, I guess is the way to put it. So why does round seem like the hard way?
It's so
we're talking about round shoots, so that's the shape of your canopy when you're parachuting.
Because everyone that's done it knows it hurts. It's not a pain it's not an injury. It's like a hard hit in hockey, a hard hit in football or rugby, like whatever sport you take, you know the hit's coming. And when it hits, you're like, okay, like that lived up to being hard. But then you're like, I'm fine. And then you like put your ruck on. And the worst part, the part that people usually get hurt on is not necessarily the jumping. It's the soldering right after. Because you're out in the open and you try to take it seriously. So you pack your gear up and you try your best to like run across a drop zone, a big open field that is undulating, potentially under night vision, and like stepping into something or like tweaking your back, like all those things are like obvious.
Yeah. And I guess like to really expand on what you're saying, so anybody's not confused here, it's like the type of canopy that you're using in round, it basically allows for a faster descent, which means you're going to have a heavier impact on landing, which is ideal because in terms of getting people from the aircraft platform down to the ground, this is a very efficient method. However, it is and can be a riskful insertion method with the round shoots. But anyways, the impact on landing, that's just where you get to the beginning of the mission, really.
Yeah.
That's your insertion.
But you have been like up for 8 or 9 hours prior to exiting the aircraft. It's not like getting your gun from work, getting your backpack, jump on the truck, and then get off the truck. Like you're effing around for like 12 hours, maybe longer beforehand, getting dressed, seeing all that equipment, making sure that whatever you jump in with is all you have. So when you like hit the ground, you need to like, that's the worst time to find.
And to perform. It's
the worst time to find out you only brought like one pair of socks or like didn't pack your food or whatever the deal is, right? So never happened to me, but that's for real.
Okay, so you do your course. Do you go to the parachute company after?
Yeah, so.
And for anybody listening here, 3RCR, there is one of the rifle companies specifically designated as the parachute company. So active duty jumpers will end up over there and they wear the maroon beret. So if you're ever in the building or if you ever see a collection of army people and they're wearing a darker reddish beret, that is the maroon beret and signifies your active duty parachute. Fun fact.
That's what's up.
Going back to your story though, so do you end up in Mike after your...
So I was on my recce course, and so I've jump course on my recce course. I'm a November company guy, and the sergeant major in the middle of my course like pulls me into his office, and he's like, I'm really concerned about your fitness. And I was at the time was like feeling pretty in shape, like just finished all that stuff and was getting pumped on a recce course. So sure enough, I was like, sir. And then he was just like, so I'm going to send you to my company. I was like, oh, thank you. Like, what's happening? And then I showed up there and it lived up to the hype of being like, clicky, super clicky.
So tell us in terms of like the cultural difference of back in the day.
Well, the thing is that the unit had come back from their tour to Kabul. And on that tour, they had lost 3 soldiers, and one of them from my company, right? So these dudes were still the OG platoons from that tour, and I walked in as like a fresh face, no name tag, no applet on new guy, right? So I would walk in, and I walked in, I remember I got told, you're going to my company, they're like, go clear in, go talk to your warrant. I'm like on a break during course. So I'm like rush over there, and like 2 platoon was having like a meeting. All the old timers are all in there. There's corporals obviously, but to me like 26 was old. So, and I don't mean that negatively either. And they were all like listening to the war talk, and I like how do you approach the room? Right? You're like, hello, like go in, and they're like, what? Just like that. I'm like, I'm supposed to like clear in. This is like the platoon company, and they're like, okay. I'm like, all right. So I'm going to go back to course. They're like, okay. And that was it. And I walked out. I'm like, I'm going to go back in there for a bit. Like, I don't fit in here, guys.
I guess you were there since 04 at the regiment. So
was that, just to be clear, December the 11th I arrived.
This is 2011 of 04.
Of 04, yeah. So it was not like I was there at the beginning of it.
Now, these guys you're talking about in question of my company, were they deployed at that point when you got to the battalion?
No, the battalion had come back.
They already had.
I think they got back. I'm not sure of the dates because it was lawless or battle school, but like they did their tour, their Kabul tour, and then they had just they're past their post deployment leave. So kind of like where we are now on our tours.
Okay.
So like a little bit of time here, but the platoon still stayed together, and these guys were just like, yo, who's the new guy? I'm like, I don't know. I just need you to sign my paper. You're trying not to look weak either, so you're like, sign my paper. No.
So how much has changed of what you can notice, and how could you describe it? It's like, what's changed so much since your time first back in time to now?
To be clear, I'm not one of those like old timers being like, back in my day. Though there's a lot of truth to what they say now that I'm older. I can be like, it is true back in my day, whatever.
What?
But when I arrived to the unit, CSOR, the Canadian Special Operation Regiment, hadn't stood up. And when it did stand up from the unit, it took like everyone fit was like first chosen from 3RCR and then everywhere else. But it was like a no-cost move, basically, to move across the road. Right?
Can we talk about that real quick? So just like everybody's understanding, with this CSOR Canadian Special Operations Regiment, this is like a newly created unit at the time, and this is shortly after you got to battalion too.
Yeah.
So they were trying to create this new regiment. They didn't have anybody to start with, so they went to like I think the light battalions first, and I don't know how they chose from the light battalions. Do you remember? Like, did they
was just like
company?
So the answer is I don't know because I was not a private, so I was like really not like aware of all the things I'm more aware of now.
Yeah.
However, I know that like it just kind of like was taken from 3RCR, I guess. You know what? I don't know. I can't speculate.
That's all.
What I do know is that mostly a lot of 3RCR were on the original course, and then everybody else, but like it seemed to be. I went over with it, but the week before I separated my shoulder, this one, on a jump, and I had to show up to like my first day of course in a sling being like, I can't do it. And they're like, bummer, if you want to work in training? I was like, oh, cool, all right, sweet.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, photocopy.
So you got to go on you arrived to attend the first selection series.
Yeah. And selection was part of course too, so like
right.
You'd like learn some stuff and then just be torqued.
Wow.
So I didn't have to do it. I just watched it. Drove people cheering. It was a weird time, but also a cool opportunity that you got to be like rubbing shoulders with.
So you're still a no-hook private at this time?
Yeah.
Wow. So there's what's going on now. So you're working with this organization now?
Yeah, I worked for exactly what happened.
So you started working with them, and like I don't know how much you can talk about this, but as much as you can, like did you end up deploying with these guys?
No.
Well,
I was told I would go to training so that way I could get my foot in the door for the next course. so I could like have some SA. I'm already there. They're already vouching for me basically that like you'll go on the next course. I'm like, all right, cool. So I went to 3RCR to figure out what I needed to do to let someone there, because technically I wasn't posted there. I'm like, what do I do? Like, am I supposed to like tell someone I'm not going back for a bit? And when I showed up, they were a sniper. I was an officer at the time. I told them what's up, and obviously the unit had been like strictly bare. So he's like, if you come back, we'll put you on your sniper course. And I was like, oh wow. So I went back to the CSOR. I was like, what do you think to the GCF guys there? And they were like, go for your sniper course, and then like come back to this. I was like, all right, sweet. And so I went, did all the OJT, but like got like poison ivy so badly. I had to go on like prednisone, which like shut my immune system down to stop like the oozing, which is just the water, but it did stop. Like my pants were stuck to my legs, like my arms. Good place to shoot at somebody, but like paid the price. And it caused me to not go out because I was like obviously oozing and dragging it through the dirt. It's not a good idea. And they were like, so everybody that went on that like went on to pretty much become snipers. And some of the guys like Warrant Officer Brian was on that course. Like that was those guys.
Was that when he did his like his basic sniper?
That was same time. Now obviously he had the Kabul tour and was like ahead of me in life, but like cool to do at the same time.
Yeah. That's pretty.
I got distracted by reading it too.
Okay. So when it comes to like your career at 3RCR, did you get sent back to 3RCR? How long did you stay at the other organization?
So I was there for until they like deployed to do like basically a final X. And so when they left, I got told they're like, we don't need you to go on it. We don't need the GDL. So you'll stay back here. So I'm like, I should probably figure out what to do with my life. Do I wait here to go back to 3RCR? I don't know what to do. So I went back to find out, met up with that sniper guy, the sniper officer, and then went on to the OJT stuff and basically like showed back up to work and kind of slowly integrated back into my company. I was like, I guess I'm here now.
Okay.
It was weird. Yeah. So I don't even remember. It was so weird. It just happened. And then I didn't get the sniper course. And I was like, man, that's a couple of L's in a row. Bummer. Also, though, they like drag face for so long, like to be a sniper, like mad respect, because when it's like, what is the expression? I can't think of that expression, but like there's like when it's time to do the thing, like it sucks to do the things.
Yeah.
And that's right.
Everyone wants to do it until it's time to do it.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
That's it.
So in terms of your career, like what year is this now? We're going to like 07?
That would have been
06.
Yeah. So the end of 2006, off that 2007. Now we're like in 2006, obviously Medusa kicked off, and I was like on my sister battle school was Mark Anthony Graham, the big giant athlete, Olympic sprinter. So
you remember him?
I was, helped buried him. Yeah, it sucked. I mean, it was beautiful for him, and I mean, what can you do? What can you say for that? But like, yeah, it was.
What was that?
And then was that I've done a lot of like funeral parades in Trenton and going to the actual like funeral itself, burying people.
Can we talk about that for a second?
Sure.
Was that like a special role you were in? Was that like an
just like it's an honor guard, but it's like at work where they're like, when you 25 guys, like you're going to be the honor guard, you're going to be the.
So it wasn't like a full time, or it wasn't like a official duty, but it was just like, hey, we need people to fill this task, honor guard. Today's your day. You're gonna go do it.
Except you didn't know your honor guard.
So right.
Just like live your life, like do the normal stuff you do at work, and then sure enough, you hear about somebody getting killed or whatever overseas, and he obviously like find way more details out about it because you're like connected to the source, but like, and then sure enough, they come out.
I mean, so like I'm trying to like understand like what's happening here. Like you're still new in your career. Now the military's engaging in combat operations overseas. You're back at home. What's the word? What's the talk? Do you remember like what the word was like in battalion now that you're hearing that the organization you work for is going into combat again, a battle?
Everyone was pretty stoked. Everyone was excited about it. We're here to do it. Like this is, we're here to do it. This is a choice, and it's a good choice too. Lots of people do it for whatever reasons, and like whatever scratches your itch, but like it was the like the rubber meeting the road, the truth. Like, are you about it? And everybody is about it. We're all about like projecting and making sure that like Canadian values are respected and like we live the best way, and then I'll fight and die for that. So everybody should have a chance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in the end too, like just like I am a sharp knife in this story. Like use me, don't keep me in the sheath, right? So here's a chance. So it was like confusing. Obviously, it's confusing.
Yeah.
Like, peace matters, and that's the bottom line no matter what I always say. Like I'm fighting for peace.
So at the time of 306's rotation, one RCR is over there in 2006. Operation Medusa's going on. Did you guys know about any details to do with their rotation overseas? Did you know about the even the title Op Medusa? Did you just hear about
And obviously we're not getting it live.
Yeah.
The story we're coming back, but like it didn't take long to have a friend connected to a friend that
knew something was going on?
Like I had buddies that were roommates with guys that were killed. Like you were hearing it, but because our community is so small, right? Like there's not too many places in Petawawa to go where you're not going to hear about like a local soldier guy getting zapped. So Charles Company getting brewed up was big news, obviously, because it was more like one day was shocking because it's still out of sight, out of mind when you're living your life. If you don't see it, it doesn't like it's somebody else's fight, right? And then I went to Danny's, which was like that breakfast place, and there was like a dude whose back was turned to us, but his head was like a Canadian soldier. We're in combat, but his like head had all these like gnarly scars in it from like being hit by shrapnel in that A-10 hit. And I was just like, oh, that was like there was some reality shock there, like to see that and to be like, oh snap, like it's for real, eh? Like all right, don't want that.
So while you're at Mike Company, do you guys get told, hey, we're gearing up, we're up for rotation to Afghanistan?
Yeah, we were like on an exercise down in Florida. Was it Florida? Or yeah, I think it's Florida. See Florida over. It was the first time we were like given plates on an exercise, and it wasn't to like go to the range for like grenades or whatever it was, like training plates. And then because repair company was like, cool, you got him, let's go for Brian, and just like smashed us. But I remember just feeling like so suffocated. I was getting like squeezed. Obviously I had it like as tight as it could go, and learned a lot on that one walk. But like at the end of it, they were like, you're getting this because we're next, or sort of we're 2 away at that moment. So we had basically like almost a full year of workup training, which is a little much. But on the flip side, like I didn't have a family, so to me it was just like every day was just filled with awesome stuff. Like, yeah, sweet. But if you have a family, I would have been like, oh man, this sucks. But excited to do all the fun stuff, but like let me go home.
Wow. So what was your first deployment like?
I often compare it to having a book, and in the book has like, for me it was like chapters, and each one was like a chapter of things I want to experience, like a chapter of things I don't want to experience, and then a chapter of like, whatever happens, and I can write it in there if it doesn't fit. And like I did it, I got to do everything I wanted to do over there, minus a couple of things that now that I'm older, I wish I got to do. I wish I got to lead. Wish I got to lead in combat. That would have been some proof. I felt confident enough in my time there on that deployment, at least, like to think I could do it. But I also had awesome leaders that like made it look easy, obviously, because now since then I realized like how difficult. I know there's that thing, the burden of leadership, but like it does like it is true though, which is an annoying reality. Like you just want to like put your head down and not care about anything else other than yourself, and you can't. So I won't win it, at least. Bummer.
So this rotation that you did was 308, correct? Yeah. So like when you look back at 308, I don't know how to say this, but were like the kind of experiences you had over there, did you feel afraid? Did you feel anxiety? Do you remember these kind of?
Oh yeah. And obviously like anybody, I believe it, like when you go into an environment or have an experience that is like above control, like you'll remember it forever. Like be in a car accident where like you spin super, super, super hard a whole bunch of times, but then at the end of it, like you don't crash, the car is perfectly fine. Like you'd be like, yeah, I'm not okay though. Like how I describe it was like every day you lived in dread. It's like the emotion I would describe. You're always like concerned something might happen, but you're also like, I'm not going to let people see that I am concerned about the situation we're in. And I remember being told, like, as a jump from jump masters, that like never let them know what's up, like, and then they'll play off that, and everyone would be like, well, if he's cool, I'm cool, and if you see me cool, if we're both cool, then you're cool, like, okay. So yeah, dread though is like, because like, what can you do? There's nothing you can do about it. So it's like you have to worry because that's normal. You can't avoid it, but it definitely like leaves you feeling kind of tired for sure. But it's weird, obviously.
Yeah.
Combat zones or war zones are like not ideal places.
Oh no. Any really like fond memories that come up that you wouldn't mind talking about or sharing?
Fond memories? It's hard to like, so like obviously like just the boys, like our platoon, nobody died in our platoon. It's like pretty lucky. We felt like we were hard chargers. We got to be in a bunch of ticks. Like that first chapter of like cool things I wanted to experience. Like I have lots of like good memories. But it's funny because it's military, it's like war. So it's good to me, but like still a war story. So it's like, I was having so much fun shooting the machine gun. Like, that doesn't seem like the right thing, right? But like, you're like, you shouldn't be like happy that you're getting to engage in a firefight. But I'm like, it's kind of like what I signed up for, and I got to do it, so that's pretty neat. It's confusing. The warrior.
Like, how old are you when you were there?
24.
24.
Or so. Yeah.
What I started to realize is like young men, specifically in the military, I think a lot of them really admire the idea of adventure. And the idea of going to a foreign land in a role like as an infantry soldier where you're carrying a loaded weapon and you have the authority to use lethal force and you're operating with a team and you've spent time developing chemistry with this team, like, you know, you could feel like this high level of confidence. So you're on this other side of the world. So this sense of adventure one can feel by joining the military, or a reason why somebody young might want to join the military, is pretty interesting. But then I you depending on your experiences, that changes everything too.
Mm-hmm, totally. And like, I don't know, like, I don't think if you were asked like that kind of thing or say that stuff to the people in Ukraine, I bet you like somebody would be not very eager to show me not, you know what I mean? Because like the reality of war hits way harder in like those places.
So yeah,
it's a lot more mysterious. Even with the internet, it's still mysterious because it is so far away. Like, it's not nowhere near home. And thankfully, like, I obviously, lest we forget, especially for those that like didn't make it, but like a lot of other people, like, I don't know what's going on with there, just lest we forget.
It's all good.
Like, I had a point. I should have written it down.
It's all good. If it comes back, comes back. So this deployment, you go on 308.
Yeah.
You come back from it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what you were thinking, what you were feeling?
Yeah, I felt pretty screwed up. But I was able to feel like that was the appropriate, it felt like the appropriate feeling.
Okay.
Like, I felt like that is what you're supposed to feel after the experiences and things I got to go through. I say I got to, but like the things I went through. So it's annoying because like half the time or most of the time I can't be mad at anybody if I'm like feeling a certain type of way, because I'm like, I volunteered to do the thing. And now I'm like, now I'm complaining because I feel depressed about it. I'm like, well, I also chose to do it. Like, I'm the person I'm not ripping on anybody else. I mean, see mental health. Like, it matters the most. But I was like, yeah, I had like I did have flashbacks, but it wasn't like only 2 times I ever had like intrusive thoughts where it was like flashback related. But like, saw some stuff, did some stuff, like in the Baldwin ID, tried to kill 4 dudes, like dismounted. So that was a mess and pretty intense, obviously.
So it's like his definitely just sounds like it'd be quite the adjustment to come back, right? So
we were going to go back. Like,
yeah, in
my mind though, I had already I needed like a year lease from going again. Like, I felt pretty full. That book, filling that book up was pretty is a lot. So I had like a lot of time to like compartmentalize and stuff. So I was training again to go for the SF.
Training again to go?
I trained again to go for the SF. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So you come back from this first combat experience of yours. You're feeling the effects of what any young person, just experiencing something like that. It's a lot to come back. But, you have the intent and the idea to re-engage with the experience again down the road. And on top of that, you're willing to go try out for a special unit that would perform probably even, again, high risk kind of environments and operations and stuff.
Yeah.
So with that being said, like, were you struggling when you got back, or did you feel pretty squared away to go try out?
I felt squared away to try out. I felt like it was the correct thing to do. I was like, I had worked out quite a bit. I had just faced so many fears, and fear is strong. It's a strong word, but I'm not meaning it in like a truly fearful way. I just mean like, I don't know how I'm going to react when someone shoots at me. I thought I knew. I was pretty sure, but like, it's one of those things that until it's tested, you don't know. So to go through it, to do all those things and have all those experiences, to get all those like firefights and stuff like that, like at the end of it, I was just like, all right, like, yo, I can hang.
Like, you felt validated.
Yeah. And it like just told the truth of something I knew, which was like, if it's like you or me, it's me. So that felt good. It's so like crazy because it's like currently I have to have a winner's mentality. And once I get out of the military, I can like look back at it and have a different attitude. But right now it's like still active. So thanks, bayonets.
Yeah, the winner's mentality, that competitive mindset, it's huge. Like, especially right now, like I can kind of relate because I'm in my company right now and that's the thing about identity, right? About my company. And we're in a very interesting part right now because we don't have too many legacy members of my company that are still serving here in that role. So, and if anybody kind of gets what I'm saying by that, having that veteran group of members, they can retain the culture, the attitude, the perspectives of what my company would be like. And just so anybody's listening, I think there's a profound difference between serving in just a general rifle line company and serving in a parachute company. And the reason behind that is that there are cultural differences and the pride that goes on behind the identity of the Maroon Beret and the jumper spirit. It's a legit thing. You can argue you drink Kool-Aid, and whatever kind of analogy you want to use, but you do have to really absorb and take on that mindset, which is the infectious optimism, right? That eagerness, the aggressiveness.
Totally.
Right? So not only just being able to do everything the other riflemen can do it, but having that mindset, that competitive mindset to do it better. And so I think we're working on that right now in how I'm going through my experiences in my company, trying to build that up in my own platoon.
Sure.
But yeah, like trying to establish that identity. It's interesting because it's like we're walking into an organization that already has an established identity, but we're just trying to revitalize it again.
That's every person that goes in does that.
Yeah.
That's the good news because it stays current. It stays usually hard. Like it's usually people trying their best to like make it difficult, make the training difficult. And because the reality is when you jump in, you're a commando on the ground. You're by yourself. You have what you have. And once you meet the threshold to like, if you make it to the drop zone RV, like, once you meet your threshold, regardless of everybody's there, like you're going to do the mission. So it's up to you to be the best soldier you can be. And so that's why now that I'm at the other end of this rag band, now I have to like say, like Mo said it best, but he was like, you need to like start prepping like your position next. So like for example, like I'm taking my sergeants now and like trying to encourage them to like think bigger picture, sit with me as we go through that, because Mo did that for me, and I recognize the fact that like helped me, though I didn't understand how to take advantage of it at the time because it didn't relate. So I was like, yes, cool, TSRs, whatever it is. But now I'm like, oh man, yeah, it was better when Mo did it.
How long have you known Mo?
Oh my goodness. I first kind of knew about him when I went out for that. When I went out for it was CSOR the first time. Just because I think I had known that he was on a picture in the wall at work winning a gold medal at the Cambrian Patrol. So I was like, everybody in that picture, you were just like, oh, those guys are hard fit dudes. Like, especially at this end of my career where I'm like, whoa, nice gold medal, like no big deal. So he was one of those guys. So that's how I didn't know him until I guess to know him truly till later. But I think I had the airborne background, so I was kind of safe to get to know him. But yeah, DFS was like when I went to the direct fire support platoon. He was the warrant, and I was excited about that because I know about his like crazy background and him being good to go. So that was a cool opportunity to like be mentored by him, and also like get to know him better. He's a good person.
While we're on that topic of mentorship, like I think we can both agree it's really important because you try to describe like having your own experiences of like nurturing somebody into the role that they're going to be adopting next. Other than that story, do you have other kind of like these memories that come up of like good positive experiences of being mentored or having a role model?
You know what's funny? I'm gonna like annoyingly answer it the other way around and say like I've seen a lot of like stuff that like I would never do.
Yeah.
And those leadership styles where it was like you have to listen to them, like however you like it, doesn't matter.
These undesired behavioral traits.
These like just bullies and people that are not like clever enough to pick up on the joke, and then like I would be in trouble. Now, okay, I know that I'm a mouthy guy that likes to like
you don't
talk too much or whatever the deal is, but like I don't know, like that's not my style. I think I was the beginning of like the Y generation of being like, well, why do we need to do that? And that drove people crazy.
Oh my God, can we talk about that?
Yeah, sure.
Like, so what Brian's saying right now is the idea of asking why. Why are we doing this? Why do we need to know this? And can you expand on why that itself became a big deal?
I have no tact, so that's a bad start. I would say like when at inopportune times to the wrong people or whatever, and then I would be like overheard by somebody that matters and they like tear me or whatever. And that's fine. I learned the hard way. But the point is that like I just didn't really understand. I couldn't say it back. Like if the mission was XYZ, I couldn't say back like XYZ confidently at the end of it. So I was like, well, why wouldn't we just go to Y? You know what I mean? I shouldn't use the word Y. Like, but why are we going by YX first? Like, it was never explained to me. And obviously, there's a sequence and steps of things, and that's fine. Having done my recce course right off the bat, like, I understood mission analysis a lot better, but certainly not the best. I will definitely say I was a private or corporal, but yeah, I don't know where I was going with that.
It's all good. I want to try to expand on this. So, like, the idea of a subordinate surely understanding the purpose and the reason for what they're going to go do and engage really helps with enabling their individual and collective ability to be successful. Because when you really understand something, like a task, for example, you can adapt to the circumstances that you're experiencing while you're trying to accomplish this task so that you can effectively try to achieve this task. Because if you don't understand the reason why or the purpose behind what you're trying to do, then you might not make the best informed decisions to allow you to accomplish a task. And that's it in a very nutshell.
That is a better way of saying it.
I'm a little bit all right with words. But yeah, so like, and the reason why I want to talk to this about Brian is because like when I came to the Army, I came to in 2010, and there was still a culture of like, you don't challenge decisions, you don't challenge the plan, and if you do, like you're kind of like outcasted in a way where I don't know how to really explain that better, but you can be perceived in a negative way by asking why back in the day versus now where it's absolutely what's the word I'm looking for, it's encouraged to ask why so you can understand what the task is or what I'm asking you to perform, right, to develop your competency. But man, like it's a cultural shift what happened in the Army in the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah, and I'm happy to have like gone through the hard guys or the hard asses I went through. And it's not to say there's not lots of them now, because there is, and it will take 15, 20 years for the guys to be like, these guys were the hardest idiots, and the guys that never let us talk or go home early or whatever it was. But yeah, I agree. Like,
man, do you have like a very fond memory of remembering someone getting jacked up?
The worst jackings I think I've ever seen are mine. Yeah, I got like tore a strip off when my friends were in front of me. One of them had a Snickers bar hanging out of his tack vest. The other one was like trying to pick at it to steal it. We were getting addressed by our OC, Major Oberworth at the time. para company right before tour. Like we all think we're super big guys. And the OC is like the winning section of this like event where we went through the woods and did NavXs and gun put togethers and all that kind of stuff, whatever. At the end of it, you got to go home that night and everybody else had to sleep out in the field, one echo, sleep out in the field, and in the morning clean the entire camp up too. So you were just like, got in the trucks and peace out, like something worthwhile to like win. So while he's giving us this big speech, trying to like amp us up, tell us the rules, all that good stuff, my two friends in front of me fucking around. And I'm just standing there with like literally with the machine gun slung, smiling at it. Like, look at these guys, like whatever. And the OC's like, whoever's talking over there, shut the fuck up, whatever. And we were like, so I knew who was in trouble. So I was like, oh. And then at the end of their league, it was like, Corporal Hurley, get over here now. And I was like, full fighting order campaign on, like run over with my machine gun. And like, he like goes on me and then down the other side, like, you ever talk in my ranks again, like you will be out of the company faster than you can say airborne. Kid like had a paragraph of things to say, and I was just like progressively like putting my heels together, like, oh shit, slowly putting you when it's happening. And obviously there was no way to like, he was such a vast rank difference and experience. Like, I don't know. Now I know how much time majors have or how long it takes to get to major. Like now I understand how long that is. Like I was a corporal like 5 years in the military and thinking I could just talk in his lines. So I got ripped up torn up and down. And then then we started off going into the bush. Like right away, it was just like, cool, you got jacked out. Okay, tweet, it starts. So on the first like half of it, like maybe like 4 hours of it, I was just like I'm like, oh God, I kept being like, it wasn't me. I didn't say anything. Like I know I talk a lot, and I know it's 2 hours in. You're like, yo, I swear, man, it wasn't me, man. I was saying all the time, like anytime we cross paths with FLG commander, I'm like, sir, swear that I wasn't talking. And he's like, I believe you. Anyways, at the end of it, we won. So then I had to shake his hand. We're going to shake my hand, whatever it was. But I did not say something cheeky. I was just like, sir, like, oh man, this is fucked up. So then I was like, had a hurt buckle for like a month or two, like just avoiding the OC at all costs. Like, fuck, like, I'm also trying to like not suck, but I'm just like, I don't want to like be anywhere near this guy for like ripping on me like that. Kind of really tying into your old story. But then we were on a lav range and like I had a chow hall in like a mod tent. Sit down, and he sits down. He's like, everybody sitting here? And I was like, oh, fuck. I'm like, no, sir. And he sits down, and he's like, how you guys doing? Whatever the thing. I was like, good. I was like, yeah, still just kind of like concerned about like being around you or whatever. And he was like, you're still upset about that? And then I was like, no. And I was like, I guess I'm over it. Like, yeah. See, yeah, made it work.
Did you ever see him ever again?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the more time I have in the military, the more I have like interesting memories of like what I was seeing as a corporal. I have more time and I understand more. Like looking back, you're like, whoa, cool. He was like a good combat OC, like led para company, was like
you're saying basically after in hindsight, after reflecting on it, you're forgetting him?
Yes, because it's the only thing I have to do. It's the only reality I live. So like that's, I think, is like how I feel because it's true. He was the only OC I had at the time. But then reflecting on it, I'm just like, cool. Now if you had like an OC that was like a warrior that wanted to like push, wanted to close with and destroy, like it was a good paratrooper example to like continue to want to be and look back at and be like, fuck yeah, I served under that. I was part of para company in a war. Like, cool opportunity.
That's awesome.
Did a bunch of lav jumps.
Yeah, forked up. So after you get back from 308's deployment, where did you go? You said you tried out again for CSOR.
Yeah, so I tried out for CSOR again and completed the selection to get picked up. Got told to come back. I was like, all right, but that was a pretty hard L. It was rough because I like really tried my hardest, and at the end of it, a bunch of my friends got picked up, but I didn't. And that's part of the deal, right? Like I imagine part of it is that maybe you have what it takes, and they need you to come back to show them that's true. But I didn't go back for a third time because of the fact that I was just like, I don't know if I'd be like, I don't want to take a third L. I'm like, I left it out there. If I didn't get picked up, that's fine with me. So from that, had a knee surgery. I was like, well, I better like, why is it always in pain then? So stopped like just being hard-headed at least. Had knee surgery, finished knee surgery, went up PLQ. We did a bunch of like working with the States with dual axis, working with the 82nd and stuff like that. but then I became a drum master, then went on to be a parachute instructor. And then we got deployed to Poland because of Russia effing around with Crimea, taking Crimea. And we got to do a lot of like jumping during that reassurance. Like we jumped into Poland, we went in Germany and like flew across the Baltic, jumped into Latvia in 2014. Like did a lot of cool stuff where it was.
So using T11s or using?
Yeah, T11. Yeah, totally.
Oh wow. Okay.
Very cool. Like a great opportunity and like a big flex. Like it was just a big flex.
Yeah.
Who knew we were like being like, I knew obviously you knew you were being like extra provocative doing stuff like that, but like who knew that like that was another thing they were going to use to be Ukraine. But sure enough, came back from that tour, which was like,
what are you, a master corporal?
Yeah. So weapons that para company still. So pretty cool to have a second tour with my company, para company, and did that. We got told 11 days out. They're like, within 11 days, like we were 2 kit bags and a rucksack and gone. And we were just like, where are we? This is gangster. This is pretty cool though. But it was also like really austere, really gross. Like, and it wasn't a tour yet. So people were just like, they're there just in case. Like, so we didn't get at the time we were going to get a medal. Nothing. We ended up getting the operations medal for it. But like that took 2 years of them finally being like, fine, they got it too. Like they were there. But my wife knew that I was there because of the fact that I wasn't home. So.
Oh, sorry. Backtrack. Are you married even on your first tour too?
No, I was single. On my first tour.
So you were married by your second deployment?
Like I had girlfriends and stuff, but like second deployment, wasn't married. We were going to get married to my fiance. So that was like, it was going to happen in that summer. The following summer. So went to Poland, did that. We came back, went on my sergeant's course. And then at the end of it, which was like the beginning of Christmas leave, they were like, Hurley, you need to go back to the unit and talk to the sergeant major. So I was like, all right. So I went back and they were just like, cool, man, you're posted. Okay. And he's like, you have to report on the 12th of February to CFLRS.
Oh,
to basic training. So I'm like, right now it's December 15th or something, like December 12th, something like into December. And they're like, yeah, you need to report in a month and a half. And I was like, oh, I just bought a house in Sudbury with my wife. Like, and that made sense because we were so deployed and crazy. I was like, I'll just live in the shacks and like drive there on weekends. Like it makes sense to have like money in real estate, but like I don't need it. I have like barracks, so I can like have my wife in there. We got her friends in there and like pay. Like this will make sense. I'll make money doing this. This makes pretty sense. And they're like, you're going to put back and like, oh, no, it's over. So yeah, and like middle of January looking for a place to stay. So yeah, I went. But still,
how was that, man? How's St. Jean?
The circumstances getting sent there sucked, and that was like the hardest thing to separate my sourness with making sure that it like I didn't take it on the recruits. Like these are guys that are like asking me, they're like, what's battalion like? How was battalion? I'm just like,
oh, green, wet behind the ears.
Yeah, but I'm mad at them for sending me away. So I'm just like, no, it's great. It's really something. But no, but like obviously we trained them up and just separated the two.
Wait, you were over there, like, did you at all like enjoy it? Did you feel, like I said, satisfaction?
Yeah, once I like Stockholm syndrome, like once I was like, there's no escape here. Quit the army is the answer, and that was like financially not like a good idea. Plus, I knew that this would be something that hindsight, I said it to myself here, I'm like, I know that hindsight I'm going to be like, this was a good time, which I was mad about because the army does that to me for everything. The entire time I'm like, this is the worst time of my life. And then maybe like a year later, I was like, yo, remember when we did that thing? Like all high-fiving about it? Makes no sense, but like at the time, you're like, my back hurts. I'm like, fuck.
So after St. Jean, where'd you end up? You got back to battalion?
No, I did 2.5 years there. I was like told I'll have to do more time, and I was like, no, I'll quit over this because I will. Like I was like if I just was being accommodated, it seemed that I like was handcuffed to a mortgage. I put myself in that position, and I know that, but like I was like, guys, like I will quit over this. Like I will go to anywhere else, even if you don't want me back at the unit for some reason. Like I'll go anywhere else. Just I can't be so far away. Like it's an 8-hour drive. Like I can't do that on a weekend. And they were like, fine, clickety click. Oh, you're a parachute instructor and a jump master. You're a drop zone controller. You're a helicopter, like hel ops guy. They're like, would you want to go to the jump school, like the Advanced Warfare Center? I was like, yeah, from the beginning. Like, that's why I have those courses, so I could like pigeonhole myself to be posted there. Yeah. And he was like, okay, cool. Well, you'll be posted this summer. And I was like, for real? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, what the hell? So I call my wife. I'm like, I can get to Trenton. That's as close as I can get because she's in Sudbury. She's like, we'll sell the house. And she's like, she's a teacher, and I didn't want her to like sell the house and come to Quebec, knowing that it was only for X amount of time. Like, it wasn't like where I'm between at work.
Yeah.
Like,
you're uprooting her just for a short period of time.
And I like to take a massive loss on the house, like that we had 1 year mortgage paid on. So
what happened after that? Like,
went to CC, went to the airborne school, did a year down in the Paris cell, but I had to hurt back at the time, so I did a lot of drop zone and all the drop zone and landing zone calls, which is awesome because I do enjoy that stuff. So that was pretty cool. And then they offered me to go to the Arctic operations cell. And I said, yeah, I'd love to do it. They were shocked. Like, really? I'm like, yeah, like, totally. I came to the school. Like, I have a lot of the quals that I'm, like, teaching I have. I have. So, like, going to a school that has all these advanced courses, like, why can't I get one? Give me some. Okay? Well, obviously, the point of the school is not to do that. The point of the school is to teach your qual. But, like, they're like, do you want to go to the Arctic cell? So I was like, here's my chance. Yeah, let's do it. Totally. So I did. And we did... the Arctic Operation Advisor course. So
can we talk about that?
Sure. Yeah.
Like, can you tell us about what kind of things you learned on that kind of course?
You learn how to survive in the subarctic, tree line, and then the high Arctic. And by survive in the high Arctic, I mean survive until like your supplies are out, and then that's it. Course is over. You'll die pretty quick in the high Arctic. It's for real. Polar bears, like that's a true thing. So, you do like 4 weeks or so in the tree line, and it's just like epic cold, like minus 45, minus 50. Like, it's heavy metal, like proper, it makes no sense cold. And you just do ground search and rescue. You learn how to run the ranges, that like how people go through the ice. Obviously, that means you're going through the ice. You do, a week of survival, a week of ground search and rescue. And then we do the same thing in the high Arctic, but you like with a rock march, and then that starts your survival phase.
Any funny stories from events?
There are. What do they like? They have escaped me now. Honestly, like it's the weirdest thing about the Arctic is that the Inuit making fun of my my igloo was like hurtful somehow. Like I came up and called me Pinky. He's like, "You're Pinky." I was like, "No way." I've never been like racially like chirped like that. I was like, "Yo, what?" And then he's like, "Nice white man igloo." I was like, "Yo, don't chirp that." He's like, "You're going to be cold tonight." I was like, "All right."
Well, I got a photo of that igloo.
He looks like every other one, but yeah. Which obviously means it sucks. And it was the coldest night of my life, hands down, like sleeping in that igloo. I don't think it was like our shoddy workmanship. I think it was like even though you're working just below a sweat in the Arctic, like that sweat, that perspiration builds up in your clothes, and then at night everything just like chills out. But there's like no room for air. Like if you're not dry, you're gonna freeze out. So the worst night's sleep of your life, like it makes no sense because how like no skin can be exposed. Okay, so how are you gonna sleep? What you do? Put like a towel over your face? Like that's gonna immediately be terrible. Sleep with your bank robber mask on with something over the mouth hole. Well, that builds up, so you'll like wake up and like things will be stuck to your skin and it'll like hurt. So you have to like put your tongue on it and like thaw it off of your nose or off of like a mustache or whatever. Like, I'm not, you're right. Like, there's so many things you just don't know, and I didn't know. And I guess that's the point of the course, right? It's to get up there and get pumped. It was metal. And then you're like, oh, it's minus 45 ambient temperature. Let me get on my skidoo, do 60 kilometers an hour. Like, immediately frostbite. They would like sneak between two things, and like I have like some marks on my face that are like I got like mild frostbite, but now in certain lights it's darker across my nose. My freckles.
It's like a burn you got.
Yes. I mean, yeah, it's frostbite.
Also, like when you
like literally like damaged my skin, yeah. And my bad. Jumper air, like oof, recovered. So self-correcting problem though. It's basically like when you feel it hurt, stop and cover it up. But like if you were like, I'm fine. I'm fine. That was it. That second one, now you're like, you are scared. You're like, oh, really? Like I was just like fine. Like yeah. And crazy people live up there. So awesome. The unit are dope.
Were you ever worried about getting hurt or like significantly injured while you're on that?
Or just the mental fear of bears is a real thing.
Like, what do you mean?
like when we saw them, so when we went to the higher Arctic, like obviously you're told there are polar bears and you're like, you have your imagination to think about polar bears, but then to see them actively on the ice and it makes no sense for them to be there. And it's like a giant, like well-fed carnivore that is like that within like 3 steps and one like just takes 3 steps out of the way. And now you can't see it anymore and you never see it again. And you're like, no, it's out there. Like, and that's not the only 2. So that's that thought. And you're like in your flimsy tent and the air hurts your skin. You know what I mean? And there's like the polar bear that wants to go swimming. Like, no, that's what you think about it.
It's interesting. Like,
and on my gun, by the way, you carry ammo in a gun and it's on your skidoo outside the tent. Like, okay, well, all right.
Like, just to cover the different variables of danger, fear, and risk that you've experienced from being in Afghanistan, fighting the enemy in that kind of campaign, towards being in the high Arctic and being with another kind of threat and danger that exists, the climate itself and the wildlife out there, the polar bears.
Yeah.
That's wild. So, like...
Yes.
So,
yeah, totally agree.
Yeah. This is kind of changing up the subject, but I hope you don't mind me asking, because people are always curious about these kind of experiences that people have. Do you remember the first time you were in combat?
I do. So like, I'll just do like my first like 2 or 3 months in Afghanistan, and I'll try to like sum it up pretty quick. But like we arrived, our platoon had suffered one of our master corporals, Master Corporal Goodrich, had died from cancer about, I think it was a week before we left.
Oh, wow.
And so he passed away. His section stayed back. It was decided his section would stay back to attend the funeral. And so we deployed with 2 sections and a headquarters, which I was in as a machine gunner. So we deployed to Afghanistan. So obviously we're just like kind of like all obviously in shock and sad. Also, this is happening, so this is the focus, but that is something that's in the back of your mind. RIP to Goodrich as well, by the way. And then we arrive. Obviously, Afghanistan, I've never been there, and it was like as culturally different and alien as any place could be. So, and then there's this weird like other layer of like a recognizable military atmosphere. So you're like, yes, but no, like what is happening? And then we get told, okay, cool, tomorrow. So we get our sign over our vehicles. We're like, have this idea. Who knows what we're gonna do? You're just like kind of nervous and excited, like. And then sure enough, they're like, we got all of our labs. We're going to leave, I think, the next day or 2 days. What was it? You were going to leave the next morning. And then so that night, around, say, like 3 in the afternoon, I think it was around then, all of a sudden there's like, comms lockdown. I'd never heard of that expression before. So I was like, what does that mean? And they were just like, yeah, like somebody has died. And until they like call their parents or their next of kin, you can't like call home and all this kind of stuff. Like, all right, cool. And sure enough, like 3 Canadians had gotten killed when I guess like the rocket hit their lab and like ricocheted and got them in the back or something like that. But that night I was part of a ramp ceremony, and it was like shocking to know the next day you were about to like go out to wherever that was. But like it was intense, obviously, and also kind of sad. And hindsight, I'm very happy in like obviously a respectful way to have got to take part in a ramp ceremony, to know that it really was respectfully done, and that it was like to leave the battlefield from a Canadian perspective, it's like that's the way to do it
in a dignified manner.
It's the way to do it. Like the pipes, the feeling, it was the sunset. It was like it was an appropriate, respectful, awesome way to see them off, if you can. You understand what I'm saying? So
I don't know how the best way to say it in my own words, but like there's some sacred aspects to our culture of being soldiers.
The Canadian ones, especially.
Yeah, and yeah, like we talk
Poland from everybody. So
yeah, like we talk about the danger that's part of the job and the risk that goes into being in an operational capacity. But I think a lot of people could probably agree now. Like we're so kind of far removed from the idea of seeing our friends being in a position where like we won't see them again, kind of deal with yourself. So it's kind of hard to wrap your mind around it like today's days, but there's these cultural aspects of where we work that we need to make sure that we respect, like the sacredness behind it, like these ramp because they are a big deal. Like, they don't sound like they are, but they are. Like, I can only imagine when you've been putting yourself in a position where you've been in danger and risk and you're fighting with your comrades on your left and your right, in and out for extended periods of time, and then one of them is dead, you can't help but feel all of those like memories and stuff that you have with that person, that like this is your last chance to be with them before you have to go back into the gauntlet, that take the time to say your goodbye.
That's what I'm saying. While you're doing it, like, so I use the word dread, because then you're like,
Yeah.
you know what's on the line. The good news is, if you die, it's over. There's no thinking about it.
Yeah.
It's just, of course, it's over here. Okay, it's nothing to think about. So that helped me like just like suppress it and work within that world, because you're just like, all right. And people say it all. I've read it in lots of books. Like, once you kind of like admit that you're already dead, you can work. And that was exactly how I did. But it takes lots of practice and lots of like gulp to like take that next step. Or more importantly, we have no control inside of a vehicle. The vehicle's like drives you sideways and you're feet on outwards, and you're just like, I'm a victim. Like, if hopefully nothing happens, I don't know. So that obviously is like not good for your brain. I digress. We do the grant ceremony. Next morning, the platoon that's going to take us drives us back to where they came from, which was Spurwingar. At the Spurwingar, they refueled, got their stuff, went back. We were living our lives, and they're like, boom, comes lockdown. We're like, oh, wow, here? And we were living in a Taliban school, so it was like, had bullet holes. I didn't know where that was. I was like, this is crazy. Like, what has happened here? Really good book called Lions of Kandahar. And that's the Green Berets that went in and like took the Spurwingar, the hill.
Lions of Kandahar?
Lions of Kandahar, yeah. And they fought through that schoolhouse. So I only read the book when I got home, but knowing that that's what I was like living in, was like this like schoolhouse they kill guys in, or at least shot their way through, like was a very exciting like thing to look back and be like, whoa, cool. That explains that whole life. Just like how there was bullet holes in the ceiling and the corner walls and stuff. You're like, who would shoot over there? Like, oh, I see, because it's real. So we get there, comes lockdown. Sure enough, one of the labs that drove us out, they were going home, and they hit an IED and Sergeant Shibway died. So obviously, like, there's no real guilt. It's not my fault, but like I couldn't help but feel like we're the reason why that happened. Like, not really, but you can't help but like connect a little bit of it, being like, man, like, oh man, bummer. You wouldn't be there if I wasn't, but it's the way it is. What it is. So the next day, we did a left seat, right seat with the two different places that we were going to be like doing your 3-hour watches on. So one was like on an OP at the top of it, of like this big hill, and then the other one was like the front gate. You had machine guns, 50 cals. There was a lab there. It was also all the choices and all the ability to like see at night and all the good stuff. You sit up there, and there was a big Kyle Durden quote that like on a huge piece of wood that was like, "This is your life, ending 1 minute at a time." Because you do 3 hours you do 3 hours every 12 hours, and you do that for a week. So you're like doing from 3 till 6 in the morning, and then 3 till 6 at night, or whatever the deal was. So, two guys go up there. I'm living my best life, actually sitting in the mess while those two guys are sitting with the pickleys. And I'm like, does this place ever come under attack? And they were like, man, never comes under attack. Like, within seconds of saying that, like, an RPG gets shot from the local village, misses the front gate, but it doesn't explode, but it beds there. So the guys are like, there it is. Like, whoa, a smoking rocket. And then a whole bunch of rifle fire gets shot up at the hilltop. And the RCRs at the hilltop, their pair guys are just like, wake, hit, and shoot, because the bad guys were actually shooting from inside of a grape hut through like a hole in the wall, obviously the doorway. But there was like kids and stuff that like they purposely put themselves to shoot over these kids so we couldn't shoot back. And it's funny because like you get jaded. So some of the old jaded guys that were getting ready to leave were just like, why didn't you shoot? And our guys were like, what? Wait, because we can't feather it that well, man. They're like, man, we would have. Like, all right, sure you would have. But definitely taught a hard game. So that was pretty shocking. And then I would say within 4 days, we were 3 or 4 days, Blackhawks at nighttime flew into a combat outpost. And so the combat outpost we went to was a place called Zangabad. Lived up to it, man. It was a bad place. Like, we showed up, and right away, the first thing you saw, like, it was just a platoon, like a bunch of dudes with beards, and beards weren't cool yet. So beards were cool, but like beards weren't allowed. So like beards, and they were always wearing just their t-shirts underneath, like shooting from the walls, like just with their body armor and a t-shirt on. You're like, man, where are we? This is awesome. You know what I mean? Like, and these guys had been in quite a bit of combat. I'll let one of them speak to it if I ever get them on. But these guys had experienced like 2 different losses in their platoon commander and one of their medics. So these guys, when we showed up, we were like, oh, like I'm green. I actually noticed like my combats looked fresh, even though they're both arid, they're both like desert looking. Mine looked like bright and clean versus this guy's like we're like one color somehow now. And by the end of my tour, same thing. And I saw the you guys come in like, can you guys like look at this guys? And it just takes time to get dirty and not wash yourself. But like, yeah, there was a significant difference between us and them. So we got there, it's beginning of Ramadan. So we just got mortared every day, but we still pushed out and did patrols. But it was ripping hot. It was like probably like close to 50 degrees. You're wearing full body armor. You're adjusting what you're bringing because you just don't know. So like sometimes I would bring 3 belts of C6 ammo, like just 20 pounds a belt. Like I was humping a lot of ammo just because I was like, if we get a tick, I'm going to be able to like shoot as much as I want, haphazardly basically, and know that I have a lot to like still work with to maneuver and then to come back, of course. But that ended up being like 1 belt too many to be like normal, right? Like I was like huffing and puffing, doing a slow motion obstacle course, climbing over walls and like jumping into ditches and stuff like that. So you're just basically working through all your equipment on these walks and also trying to pay attention. And then finally the Pickley platoon Blackhawk showed up, they pissed off, and then they obviously went home. So then we were left to do our own thing. So at the time there was like, we had 2 sections. Our 3rd section still was coming into country. So 2 sections, headquarters, and like a section of Afghan soldiers. I believe it's a section. So they would come up patrol with us with their sketchy interpreter. You'd always leave a section behind to man the base, the little base you're in. You know what I mean? So we would go out with 1 section of us, 1 section of Afghan soldiers, and we'd go into some of like the most like insanely like dangerous places that like have known kill counts already. Like where this officer had been killed, where their fucking automatic had stepped on an IED at nighttime, like all this. And they told us before they like that, pointing at the map, we're like, down south, like we don't go past here, we don't go past there, this is the promised play here. And basically knew everywhere, so basically could draw like this invisible circle of places that are like the second that they show up there, it kicks off and it doesn't usually like pan out due to the fact you're there with such a small group of dudes. You know what I mean? You're working in like a group of 15, 20 dudes, fighting a group of almost 15 or 20 guys. You know what I mean? Like they build up their forces quick and then disperse into nothing. So we had done our first big patrol by ourselves, 5K size, just because it was so hot. And so at like 4K in, we got to a pomegranate field. So it was a grape field, and grape fields there. If you like a grape field here in Canada, you see like the grape rows. There they just build dirt up or mud up and that support it. And then over 100 years, it becomes like these huge, like long, as deep as you are, essentially trenches, depending on what direction you're looking, like old school trenches. So we were walking in one of those because they're safer than the roads, and we came to a wall that had pomegranates growing at the top of it. So it was like a good like heaving somebody over, but then you have to like meander through these like groves of pomegranates. And the thing is that like, and the area we were, it was known that like anywhere area with like full of trees was like where locals took dumps. Like they'd poo in these like little forests. So you would like walk through there and like trying to avoid poo, but you're still thinking danger. So you're like poo and bombs. Like this is the worst spot. So we were basically like, our officer said it later. He was like, hindsight, we go over the wall. And he learned his lesson from that. But like, he's like, instead we'll just follow the wall out of this little field. It'll lead us to an area that like is a better area to like traverse. And we turned it like basically look like an elf, and they didn't even know the other guys the whole patrol hadn't committed to using the wall, and they engaged us from the front. They engaged the front guys near where I was, but they weren't aiming at me for sure. And thank goodness they suck at shooting, but like they missed, but it was accurate enough that like we were like, roger that, and immediately in a perfect L, basically everybody could shoot, like shot in towards that direction. And because it's your first firefight and you're in the black, like you just let the bullets fly. Like you're pretty sure, you're like, that's the direction, like just hammer it. And in the end, like anybody that would not shoot would be the person that would be in the wrong. You know what I mean? Like the right thing to do is be like, it's that direction, like get some fire on it. And then bosses start to like control the fire as well as you do. So in that tick, they're like, Hurley, the officer's like, Hurley, obviously last time, they're like, you're going to stay here, and then we're going to work our way back to where we made an L. We're going to hop over the fence, the wall there, and we're going to continue back to the base because now we're getting low on ammo, and we spooled up a 60 mil mortar mission which was maybe like we were like within 500 meters of the camp. So our warrant was an advanced mortarman from back in the day. And so they were like starting already to like lob mortars onto this little compound that we were taking heat from. So it was cool to be like the last guy because everybody had pulled off. And I knew what I was doing. I was like, this is like, I am here to like essentially like sacrifice myself. But I didn't look at it like that. But I was still just like, I got you guys, you get going, like let's do this. And just laid down like suppressive fire into like the little windows, I've seen the doors or whatever. So just, I didn't waste like more than like 20 rounds, you know what I mean? And then they're like, we're good. I'm like, and then I went running back, hopped over the fence. I had probably drank like a liter of my Camelback. And I was just like, maybe within like 3 sips, like drank the whole thing walking. And I was like, I am like dying of thirst. And I remember reading that Grossman. I don't remember his first name. Grossman's book, though, he was like on killing, and some of the things that like combat would go through would be like an extremely insatiable like thirst. So I remember getting back and just like Gatorade powder to my analogy and just chugging it and just being like, wow, like I didn't feel like satisfied. So that was the first tick. Then the next day we went, or a couple of days, whatever it was, we went down south to definitely the place where like, don't go there. Went down there, and on our way down there, I climbed into a grape hut, which had a big sketchy ladder. So the grape hut's already 1 story above the ground, and then it's 2 stories of like built building, and the roof is like made of sticks and shit like that. So took this like bamboo ladder, climbed up to the top, made a little hole, and then I could see like way over the village, and I could see what they had told us on workup training, which was like insane to see in real life. But I could see women and children, like a horde of them on the other side, like leaving. And I was like couldn't believe it. I was passing over the means. Like, there's like actually like only women and children like leaving. And like, we're all like, oh, this is actually going to happen. And like, what is going on? So I get down from my little perch. We continue into the village. The village is a ghost town. They find like, I think it was the Afghans. I'm not sure exactly who would. Someone finds like a suicide vest, which is also a shocking moment to be like, whoever's here is like willing to like commit it all. Like, it was pretty shocking to see, like, holy crap, like where are we? And so then we explored as much as we could and you started to get that feeling of being like, man, we have no true like way to protect ourselves if we come under contact in this place. So officer is like, let's pull back. We'll go back to the place that I was before because it had eyes on basically. Go back in. I climb up to the top. I'm looking at the village, but I'm also looking to the left. And when I'm looking to the left, like basically secondary, because they have the C6 up there too. I'm just being a cheeky bastard. And I can see like maybe 5 or 8. I can't remember the number, but they were evenly spaced out working through the fields about 300 meters away. So they're like black, like you can tell they're people, but they're really far. But they were perfectly spaced out. And that's what made them stand out. Because you've seen workers, like farmers going in the field, even standing side by side or walking, they walk like civilians. They walk like in little groups. Like there's nothing like uniform about it. And then these guys were just like perfectly uniform. Sure enough, like within me seeing that, I like pass it up. Everybody starts to like clue in. They're like, but I'm the only one that's elevated. So people like can sort of see it. And they're like, sure, maybe. And then they're like, hey, Hurley, we're going to go. You can come down. So get my weapon, start to climb down the ladder, look back. And just as I look back, like there's nothing. No one's there. And I was like, how could this be? Then somebody stands up and I was like, that's curious, but I'm still like, I got to get going. And as I'm like going down, I could see a flash and I was like, what? And an RPG came and he was aiming, I think at the guys at the base. He wasn't aiming at me, but hit the side of the grape hut that I was in, which was very exciting because I didn't get hurt at all, but it was like the concussion, like, yeah. Oh yeah, because there's a big empty space, right? So it was very exciting. And that's when I realized, so then they're like, okay, we're on this hick. They immediately the bad guys immediately open up at us and start to shoot. Everybody's in a good position to fire back, but me being in this grape hut, already being 1 story above, I didn't realize it. On my way to get out, the stairs went down in the open towards the direction the bad guys are shooting at us. So now I'm like, oh, like I am now like having to do like a proper like run towards the enemy fire to save myself. Makes no sense. So I'm like, I'm gonna shoot one of the like from the hip. So I'm like, this is my chance. Like, there's no one here to say no. So I'm like, get the machine gun ready. I'm like, all right, here we go. All right, I'm coming out. I step out and I like shoot and I see the first like puff of smoke like maybe like 20 meters in front of me, not smoke but dirt. Like basically super inaccurate, like 20 meters, and then makes its way off into the distance. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, this time I'm going to aim. Like do it again, and I get maybe like 10 rounds, like, and then it just stops. And I'm like, oh no. Like to me, the thing I was most scared of at the beginning of the tour was having like a malfunction, like a proper malfunction with the machine gun. Like knowing that I have the C6, the GPMG, it is like the biggest weapon we have, and someone with like a clever intellect can like put themselves in a position to like cover a huge amount of area. I was always like trying to think, like put myself in a position to like catch the bad guy slipping or protect the guys. But this click like just brought everything like, oh fuck no. So I'm like, oh shit. In the meantime, they're like, hey, we're gonna like come up with a plan, like gonna lay down a bunch of fire, we're gonna run for it. I'm like, oh my god. Open up the top, look in, no ammo. I'm like, oh, that is the best stoppage in the world. Pull more ammo, slap it on. I'm like, I'm fucking ready, let's go. So then 1, 2, 3, everybody starts shooting. I run down the stairs, and I like remember at the bottom being like truly thankful, being like, thank you guys, like thanks. It meant so much in a weird way for them to shoot for me. Like that was like a moment where I was like, to them, I don't know if it mattered. Like I don't know if it mattered them shooting, but to me, like it was such a reassuring, true moment of being like, these people are shooting, trying to kill people that are trying to kill me or us, and they're doing that for me. Like I remember it still to this day being like, wow, like what a scary feeling, because we had still the rest of it, but not scary in a bad way. Scary, right. Like profound, like shocking. Like what do I do with this? So I'm like leaning against the wall though, being like, holy fuck, like okay, cool. I get up, I find a spot where it's like overlooking the corner of a field. And I'm underneath a tree, and I have the Afghan gunner, machine gunner is also beside me, and he's like shooting at nothing. The rest of the patrol is leapfrog you section by section, and when they go firm, the next guys go, and so I would always be the last guy to go. So then I would like tag in, run all the way to the front, but then everybody work through you. Like, so I'm the last guy looking at this like field, have our guys, and I'm like basically another moment to like do whatever you want, and so. This all makes sense. Like the Afghan is shooting at nothing. So I'm like, how accurate am I shooting? So I could see like a mark on the wall beside a door in about 100 meters away. So I'm like, I can see it, fire real quick, like fire quick burst, and it hits that spot exactly. Like no worries about it going through a giant brick mud wall. Like it was, and obviously professionally speaking, yeah, of course, it's wrong to do. But like I was still just like cool, like it worked. Then I like saw like another mark beside a window. I'm like right on a row. So I'm proud because I'm like, that's exactly what I was aiming at. Hits exactly seconds after I hit the second round. So I'm still basically looking at the spot I just hit, and 3 Taliban about 50 meters away, like pop up and run their asses over to the building. So I can only guess, but I guess they must have thought I was like working onto them. So they just said, fuck it, and went running. And I was able to like, obviously they said, wow, like, and just immediately fully automatic, like brought it onto them. Saw my tracers go through them. They fell into like an area you couldn't see, like they just fell down. And like within seconds, I'm like, oh, did I even just see that? Like it's all happening so quick, and all of a sudden, like wham, back on my head gets hit. And I'm like, what? And it was like a sergeant. He was just like, that was fucking awesome, good shooting. I was like, it happened? It really happened? Like, and then sure enough, they're like, hey Hurley, let's go. You're going to the next spot. I'm like, all right, cool. So I already shot about 75% of my ammo. Start to fucking run. It's ripping hot. No more water left. Like we need to make it like 600 meters. Like it's not even far. It's far enough though. Start moving, and they're like, okay, next little like go path. You're gonna like cover down. Everybody will push through you. So I'm like, sprint, like use it all. Like go for it. Get up there. I get there, and there's a guy. He's like, we're good, Hurley. Keep going. So I'm like, all right, cool. Better like slow down. You know what I mean? Conserve myself. And I get to the next spot, like moving like 50 meters at a time, going into hotter spots. Like anytime you went to those ditches, it was hotter. So you're like humid hot, like fuck. Get to the next guy, he's like, you're good. So now I'm like, what's happening? They're like, good. Hurley, you're good. Cover down the road there. I'm just like, there is like no catching your breath. It's just crazy. They pull out, we had one working lab. They pulled it out, and it got like eyes on the Taliban, who were also accidentally trying to flank us. I think they were just trying to get in better positions, matching our leapfrog. So then we go firm, they show up, we'd fight them back and forth, and it just kept doing this until we got to the road where the lab came out, could see them, and just like laid waste down like gate and L, basically, like a proper flying position for them. So they suppress those guys. And then we did like a Mogadishu mile. Like they're like, we're going to get on the road and you're going to run as fast as you can down the road and get to the combat outpost and let the Lao like do his thing. So Lao's like, wham, wham, wham. We're just like running beside it in a firefight. I'm like, this is crazy. And then finally the officer's like, hey, before you move into the camp, you're going to like cover in the Lao, just shoot down the road. I was like, where? And he was like, just down the fucking road. I was like, oh, like, I don't know, fucking shooting down like an open road. Like, yep, well, okay, I'm covering a giant armored vehicle. I turn around to go in and I trip, and it's that moon dust, and I like fall, and I like just get hammered. My face gets absolutely hammered with dirt. My arm falls on my ripping hot barrel. Get myself 2nd degree burns across my arm because obviously I had my sleeves rolled up. Just got in trouble at work about this. Sleeves rolled down. Well, anyways, I refuse to learn. But burned my arm. We win the day. Hooray. Nobody attacks us. But we had kicked a hornet's nest. The local commander, I think a bunch of, like, I think our platoon killed 4 or 5 dudes in that one. But the commander was like, we were so audacious, bunch of assholes going in there and like doing, like, they had basically like stopped the Pickleys from going there freely. You know what I mean? The Pickleys knew that it was like going to cost them something. So we went down there, absolutely kicked the hornet nest. And then the next day we came under attack nearing, say like 4 in the afternoon. I was playing Scrabble. Once you're inside your little combat outpost, like you could take your gear off, like live your life like normal. I was wearing like Nike shorts and like just a regular brown t-shirt. And we were playing Scrabble, and all of a sudden, boom, and like all the dust like raised. And obviously, like, the air gets taken from you, like a boom, and then a second boom, a second boom. And sure enough, like, right away you hear machine gun fire, and you're like, oh, fuck. So I rolled, and I have been told, like, when we come under attack, make your way to the ISO, grab your equipment, of course, but, like, make your way to the protective CCAN, and then they'll ascertain, like, let the towers, like, do their thing, and ascertain, and jump to your fighting position on the walls. Or if we're mortared or whatever it is, because nobody knows what's really happening. Yeah, like, then obviously seek shelter. I was like, I'm going to go to my gun no matter what it is, because my gun's facing a direction that like the towers won't necessarily look, but is important to cover. So I was going to break the rules and probably get myself killed if I wasn't careful. But I said, fuck it, I'm going to do that. So I grabbed my gear, went running over there. As I was running over, we had to pass through our little like makeshift gym. So gear, 2 meters, we were playing games, like 4 meters, we were fighting position, and in between the 4 meters, that was the gym. Like, it's not a lot of room here, right? So, get my frag pass and my helmet, look back in the gym, and there's Corporal Phillips, who's a reservist. And he was lying on his back, no t-shirt on, just his shorts, his like feet doing like bent, like his knees are bent. But he's lying on his back, and he has like a perfect bloodline, like that goes right to here, like just ends right here, perfectly red. He looked gray, but like this is all like at a moment's glance. And I was just like, I remember thinking like, dude, you suck at taking cover. That was my first thought. I was like, why would you like lie down in the open? This is the worst spot. And then obviously like within a millisecond, I was like, also, why are you bleeding out? So can you get up? He's like, no. I'm like, all right, man, we'll get you out of here. And I'm like, medic. I remember thinking like it was like just like the movies. I was like, I can't believe I gave like a movie medic. And then immediately wet checked him because my plan was to pick him up and just run him, right? So I was like, I wanted to make sure he's gonna have like something spinal real quick. So wet check is like nothing. And I'm like, we're under fire, obviously. And I put my hand behind, and I felt something that didn't feel like normal. And then I like lifted him just a bit. He obviously grimaced and winced, but like, and I was like, had blood on my fingers and realized he had like a pretty savage hole in his back. So then I was like, medic, went to pick him up. And as soon as I went to pick him up, like I didn't even get him off the ground. The medic keeps sliding in like fucking like a hero. And it started, I'm like, check his back. And I jumped up onto my gun. When I got onto my gun, there was a bad guy, Taliban, reloading an RPG, like in like relatively the open. Like the way the Greek rows ran from this fighting position, like were like bowling alleys instead of like trenches. And this dude, like what? So I like get the gun, like slide over like 2 or 3 feet, like have sandbags, like press it. It was like better than a range. Like I couldn't have been more like
Like in a stable,
ready to like do it. I came up and I remember like lining up everything and seeing this person who was like not aware and like let her buck and got him. But as soon as I fired, my position came under attack. So then I grabbed my gun. I knew the direction this got shot at from. So I kind of like slid down the wall a little bit more, maybe like 10, 15 feet. Like came back up. And when I came up, Bunny was like not even shooting in my direction anymore. We're shooting the other tower. And I was just able to like exactly again got everything laid on them, shot at them. By then, people had come up on the walls because they were like, hey, we're going to firefight instead. And then I was like, right where that bar is? We hit it with like a whole bunch of M203s. Like, there was nothing left. Nothing to go see, at least, that's for sure. So tagged those 2 guys. But the rest of our platoon were on the other wall, and they saturated and killed like a whole bunch of guys. The bad guys had showed up. They were using this compound called Bridgeman's Compound. And bad guys showed up in a bongo truck. So we had like laid with. Now, we had taken, at that moment, we had three injuries, 3 like proper injuries. Phillips had taken shrapnel in the shoulder blade in the back. That's why he was like bleeding, spitting up blood, because he was like his lungs had compromised, or one of them at least. And then Master Corporal Mailman we got hit by an 82 recoilless rifle, which pierced through the thin part of the HESCO, not the big ones, but the thinner one. Obviously, that's an anti-tank weapon, and that's what like labs were afraid of too, which respect. And we got hit by an RPG into the tower, so that was the one that hit Phillips. And my number 2, the guy that carries my ammo and is like my fire team partner, he took shrapnel in the back of the head and in the traps as well. So those guys got tagged. We had to call a medevac in, so we were going to send Mailman because it was like his head. It was pretty shrapnel up, but he was like good spirits, running around like with a bandit and a helmet on, looking old school. And Phillips was like in the hurt locker. He was like really pretty injured. So we had to like, basically there was a lull in the firefight. The Black Hawk came in, everybody ran the guys out. Black Hawks left, and now it's like chill is starting to become like, the sun's starting to go down. We've called in artillery. We've called in artillery so close that it like shredded our camp. Like there was like opened up pieces of water bottles, and there was like no water left in them. There was like pieces of shrapnel. The next platoon that ripped us out, there was like all this like battle damage to the area. Like pretty cool for like a hindsight story, but like at the time you were like, whoa, this is for real.
No, it's so like interesting hearing you talking about it, because these are memories that must be at least like 15 years old.
Yeah.
About that.
Yeah.
And just looking at your face and how you're recalling these memories, these are profound memories. It looks like, you can like recall all these details, and it's kind of, it's fascinating to hear you talk about these things and that these actually happen.
Yeah.
So it's very.
I'll be the first person to say I didn't get to like stand and like hold the body or look at it and be like, that was me. Like it was never like that. Like, and I'll say that across the board for most. I can't think of any stories in my immediate group of friends that they like went out and never like confirmed their kill. But in like war, like I'm not gonna lie about any of that stuff. On the flip side, like it is what it is. Like take it. In the end, I think would be a cool idea for a book is to write a book about all the rumor stories and just propose it as like, here's the rumors I heard. There's no truth behind it, but like it's like, you know what I mean? You can make your own characters up, but like tell a story that's super close to what you thought is the truth. That'd be cool. I bet you my stories would be there.
Listen, Brian, thank you so much for taking the time to come out here and talk. Like, there's, just for everybody listening, there's so much more to talk about with Brian's story here, because even after, I guess, what point would it have been? After you came back from COSC, you reported back to 3rd Battalion, and long story short, you ended up deploying again on Operation Unifier. That's where I got to meet you, like with your Oscar company. And that was a pretty good time, like especially again looking back at it. Obviously there's this friction point staring at it that has its own stories, but just because of the time sake thing, and we're all volunteering to be here, and we all got work tomorrow. Some of us a little bit earlier than others, but I just want to take the time to say thank you, because you talking about your experiences, giving us an idea about your service, talking about the memories, especially of you being in combat, like. That for a guy like me, I'm a sergeant, and all for the guys in this room over here, junior NCMs, this is all like actual professional development. Like this is educational, and I can't help but feel that hearing somebody talking about their experiences like that, it's like that campfire experience, where this is one of the most primitive forms of education, is hearing some of these stories.
Sure.
To the best of their abilities to articulate. So thank you for taking the time.
Totally.
I felt like a student just being able to hear you talk, and I just want to say that this whole project is about capturing your service, but also valuing it, because it's kind of weird to hear it when we're talking about you while you're sitting right here, but in reality, there's so many people who have come through these doors who have been part of the RCR regimental family, and once they leave, it's unfortunate that a lot of the times they leave with their experiences and their stories. So thanks for taking the time to volunteer to be part of this project, to participate in this. It's about valuing you. It's about sharing your lessons learned, your experiences. It's about giving the guys who are listening, who are from a different generation than you are, and for me, an opportunity to bridge the gap of knowledge that is starting to exist now.
Sure.
Between our different generations.
And I'll definitely say that, like, first off, those that are serving, like, if it kicks off tomorrow, you're ready. You're ready. It's true. You can always be better. You can always be more prepared. And this leads me to the second thing, and I make sure I tell my guys, I say it pretty often, which is you are the soldier that's going to deploy right now. Who you are right now is the person that goes, not the person that's 6 months from now. It doesn't work like that. The second that it kicks off, you have to go. So are you ready currently? If you think it's going to take 6 months to get there, then so be it. It needs to, but just be aware that, like, you're the soldier that deploys now, so you have to be ready. It's really how my son's really.
Thanks for sharing that for
Proud vibe, like, what the... Just like, be ready.
Hey, so
Sedan.
once again, just taking the time to acknowledge Warrant Officer Brian Hurley from 3rd Battalion, a DFS platoon, for taking the time to come out here to talk to everybody and share a bit about his story. So until next time, Warrant Officer, shout out to Pro Patria to all the guests listening,
Pro Pac.
and a very warm airborne.